The transfer to another world arrived without fanfare. When Shin realized where he was, the smell of damp mold and cold reality pierced his skin. A stone floor, a dim sanctuary, and above him, the gaze of a transcendent being. A goddess with porcelain skin smiled benevolently, but cruelty lurked in the depths of her eyes. She snapped her fingers. And his classmates were enveloped in light one by one, their statuses announced. Paladin. Archmage. Heroic blessings. His classmates reveled in their new powers. Then came Shin's turn. He placed his hand on the crystal. A faint light flickered. Nothing appeared. No skills. No blessings. Job, unemployed. Just a foreigner, the priest announced, all warmth gone from his voice. The goddess's eyebrow twitched. Even her highest-ranking identification skill could see only blank in the depths of his soul. Useless. The word hung in the cold air. A vessel that cannot answer the god's call. I will not take your life. Go outside the city walls. The goddess turned away, bored. Shin said nothing. He simply left the temple. They didn't know. Hidden deep within his soul was a secret no goddess could ever uncover. Blessing. Flawless. Teninuhu, ***. This blessing is concealed and cannot be detected by any identification or detection skill. Effect 1, massively increased experience gain. Effect 2, massively increased skill acquisition and imitation speed. The boy abandoned by the gods stepped into the mud. His hands destined to be stained with blood as he carved his path through the world's hidden side. Shin stared at the hollow emptiness spreading through his chest as he stood on the cold stone floor of the temple. The identification mirror showed nothing but fog where his status should be. No level. No skills. No occupation. A man who did not exist within the world's order. The goddess's voice rang out from behind the pure white curtain. Bell-like but twisted with contempt. This mirror cannot reflect things that do not exist, she said. You are a transparent bug. I will dispose of you in a transparent trash bin. Consider this your first and last gift. A colorless mass of light shot from her hand, piercing Shin's chest and sinking into the depths of his soul. To the goddess, he was nothing more than a convenient trash can, a way to bury data she didn't want the world to see. The temple guards threw him into the mud. Yet Shin's heart was strangely calm. Not rage. Not despair. Just the strange sensation of that transparent trash settling into his frozen soul. So this is where I begin, he muttered. He stood, wiped off nothing, and walked into the slums lurking in the capital's shadow. Days passed. Hunger and cold ruled the back alleys. Then the world bared its fangs. Hey, look, an unemployed piece of fresh meat. We can sell him high to the capital's experimental grounds. Slave hunters blocked both ends of the alley. 5 men. Levels 12 and 15 floated above their heads. To them, Shin was just a lump of meat. But as they closed in, Shin's vision transformed. The world began to move impossibly slowly. Asterisk individual, slave hunter A. Right foot has a 0.2 second delay. Center of gravity leans left, asterisk. A mechanical voice echoed in his mind, or rather, his own thoughts accelerated to their limit, presenting only optimal solutions. His body moved before his will caught up, as if he had known how to fight for years. The lead man's club traced a path Shin could read like a drawn line. He tilted his head, dodged, and drove his palm into the weakest point of the man's wrist. A sickening crack. Before the man's scream finished, Shin's knee drove into his jaw. No wasted motion. Pure efficiency. Asterisk condition met, basic martial arts learned. Optimization initiated, asterisk condition met, basic stealth learned. synchronizing with world log asterisk. Something clicked in Shin's mind. The transparent trash bin at the bottom of his soul. The blessing of flawlessness was copying the environment and his enemy's techniques in real time, altering the system itself to give him the world's optimal solutions. What the hell is this guy? His level's not showing. The remaining 4 twisted their faces in terror. Every swing they took, Shin dodged with minimal movement and destroyed their vital points with cold precision, like culling defective products off a conveyor belt. When silence returned to the rain-soaked alley, 5 men lay like silent lumps of meat. Asterisk battle complete. Massive experience gain confirmed. Asterisk updating status, LV1 to LV8. An impossible leveling speed. But Shin didn't drown in the rush of power. What lit in his chest was a quiet, unquenchable flame of rebellion against this unjust world. God's trash bin, he muttered, lifting his face to the cold rain. With this power of nothingness that the goddess had discarded, he would one day take her head from atop that white spire. The slums at the bottom of the capital had become a bottomless swamp in the endless rain. Shin had reached level 32, yet he showed no arrogance. Instead, he had learned to erase his presence entirely, becoming part of the mud itself. His advanced stealth skill deceived the space around him with abnormal efficiency because the world system literally could not recognize him. In a dark alley, he found a girl. A beast man with gray hair and trembling dog ears, a broken butcher knife clutched in her hands. Her name was Mia. Teenage, starving, defiant. She was surrounded by armed men from the Black Dog Company, slavers who ruled the capital's underworld. "Don't touch me," she rasped, her voice cracking. "I won't be anyone's slave." The determination in her eyes, refusing to bow to the world's injustice, echoed Shin's own memory of standing on the temple's cold floor. The slavers moved. So did Shin. Not consciously. The blessing of flawlessness calculated the crisis and Mia's position in an instant, guiding his body along the optimal path. Before the slavers understood what was happening, Shin had twisted one's neck joint with minimal force and slammed him into the ground. He dodged each crude sword swing by a paper-thin margin. Every enemy's center of gravity, muscle contraction, structural weakness, all visible to him as colored lines. In seconds, the alley was filled with groaning men whose limbs had been precisely crippled. Shin dropped the bloodied sword and approached Mia, who stared up at him with terrified eyes. Level 3 impossibly fragile. "Can you stand?" His voice was cold, but his hand was gentle as he grasped her muddy hand. Mia took his hand and stood, her dog ears twitching with relief. "There will be pursuers. We're moving." Shin led her deeper into the slums, to a hidden refuge in an old church cemetery. There, another piece of injustice waited. A winged girl with silver hair lay on the cold floor, black magical chains binding her hands and feet. She burned with fever. Her name was Liha. Taken by the kingdom's secret police as an experimental subject for forbidden court magic. "Who are you? What do you want with me?" she snarled, amber eyes glaring despite her weakness. Asterisk individual, Liha. Forced expansion of magical circuits by court magic confirmed. Analyzing spell structure, asterisk. Shin knelt and touched the chains directly. "You idiot. Those chains have barrier spells woven by high priests. Your mind will be corrupted." But colorless magic flowed from Shin's fingertips. To him, the complex court magic was just a twisted puzzle. He traced the flaw in the spellwork and unraveled the knots in an instant. The chains shattered like glass. Asterisk condition met, court magic analysis complete. Spell, holy light binding, learned. Initiating optimization, asterisk. Shin helped Liha drink water. Then his eye caught a strangely shaped incense burner in the corner. It was silver and bore the goddess's holy seal, but the seal was deliberately asymmetric. Left and right mismatched. That's the church's magic sensor, Liha whispered with hatred. They use it to intentionally enrage monsters near cities. Then show off their holy protection by defeating them. A pump-and-dump scheme. Shin analyzed the sensor. Beneath. It's holy. Exterior lay a vicious reversed spell that inverted magical wavelengths to corrupt living things. He pocketed the evidence. Mia, Liha. This country won't last long. We're heading west to the Gallia Empire. The two girls looked into Shin's cold, absolute eyes and decided to entrust him with their fate. The western road to the Gallia Empire grew treacherous. 50 elite border soldiers blocked the mountain pass levels 25 to 40. Their commander recognized them. The capital has sent word. Thieves who stole church property and massacred secret police. That's you. Arrows notched behind him. A dead end. Shin stepped down from the carriage, utterly calm. If I said the goods are already in my stomach, you wouldn't believe me. Impudent trash. What can an unemployed man do? Crush him. A rain of arrows fell. But in that instant, Shin's system activated. Asterisk condition met, intermediate arrow cutting learned. Enemy trajectories and wind speed optimized, asterisk. He drew his iron sword and cut the air at blinding speed. Every arrow deflected perfectly. Not one touched his clothes. Then he moved. His form vanished, reappearing among the soldiers like the wind. Each step optimized by the system, tracing the most efficient path to neutralize them. His blades struck the gaps in their armor, the weakest joints. One by one, the kingdom's elite fell without time even to scream. Minutes later, 50 soldiers lay defeated. Shin hadn't even been splattered with blood. Let's go. They crossed the border into the Gallia Empire, a practical, powerful nation of strength, where people believed in their own steel rather than prayers to gods. At the Adventurers Guild, Shin touched the magic measuring device, suppressing his power to just a few %. The crystal glowed faintly and produced a card. Asterisk name, Shin. Occupation, unemployed. Level 5, asterisk. A perfect fake. So perfect that Shin felt uneasy. The device hadn't just accepted his deception, it had actively adjusted the numbers on its own. As if something in the world itself couldn't recognize him. Well, average numbers, the receptionist said, processing him without suspicion. Thanks. Now we can start quietly in this country, Shin said, pocketing the card. The frontier city of Bazal was built of exposed red brick and worn gray iron. Tough, gritty vitality. No prayers to gods, just trust in one's own muscle. Shin sat on a crude wooden stool, flipping his fake card. Adjacent, Mia's ears twitched curiously. Liha pulled her hood low. A bear-like man loomed over them. Level 20 plus, his gaze fixed on Mia's beast ears and the white wing peeking from Liha's hood. Pretty rare goods you've got there, little brother. A level 5 unemployed can't keep them. How about I buy them cheap? Or you can be my pack mule, I'll guarantee your safety. His hand reached for Mia's shoulder. Shin's hand caught his wrist mid-motion. Don't touch her. Shin's voice was cold enough to cut through the guild's noise. Asterisk individual, adventurer. Muscle over tension limits joint range. Applying reverse torque for minimum force suppression, asterisk. Shin twisted the man's wrist a few centimeters. The giant crumpled to the floor at an impossible angle, Shin barely applying any weight. Silence fell over the guild. Consider this a warning. There won't be a second. Shin stood and led the stunned girls outside. Behind them, whispers spread like waves. That was amazing. Mia's tail wagged furiously. Just efficiency, Shin said flatly. But inside, he was calculating. When he subdued that man, his status hadn't budged. Level 32 remained. The system was processing his overwhelming technique not as level-based power, but as mere phenomenon. The goddess had called his soul an empty trash bin. But because it was empty, every optimal solution in the world flowed into him without friction. The next morning, Shin visited a blacksmith shop called Vulcan's Forge. An old dwarf with a barrel-like chest hammered red-hot iron with ferocious energy. Level 45. Innate skill, divine iron forging. What do you want? I don't make toys for brats or cheap blades for unemployed beggars. Get out before your girls get hurt. Shin looked at the iron the dwarf was hammering. His eyes flashed cold blue. Asterisk target, smelted magic iron. 14 microscopic air voids in the internal structure. Carbon ratio uneven. Continuing this hammering will reduce strength by 23%. Asterisk. Master, Shin said, stepping into the heat. That sword will break from the inside within 10 strikes at this rate. The temperature in the right corner is 3 degrees too low. The dwarf's hammer stopped mid-air. What did you say, boy? Shin reached for the hot iron sample on the workbench. You'll burn your hand. Too late. Shin's fingertips touched the black iron. But his system had already completed its optimization. Asterisk condition met, fine material interference activated. Rearranging iron molecules in real time, asterisk. A faint hiss. Blue sparks. The hard iron deformed smoothly like clay under Shin's fingers. Invisible voids and impurities were pushed to the surface and crumbled away as ash. The dwarf's eyes bulged. His hammer clattered to the floor. That's not magic. No magical flow at all. Can you see the wounds in matter? No idea. It just looked like the most efficient shape. The dwarf stared, then burst into thunderous laughter. Ha ha ha. An unemployed man who fixes iron with his bare hands. I've never seen that in hundreds of years. I like you, you magnificent Sundara bastard. Your usage of Sundara is incorrect. Shut up. In the craftsman's world, that's what we call someone who talks cheap but shows supreme skill. He brought out a short sword and an old leather pouch. For those strange eyes of yours, I'll give you this. Don't let it fall into anyone else's hands. The short sword had a dark red blade with vein-like patterns writhing across it. This is the madness blade of magic iron. It grows by absorbing its wielder's energy. But the real deal is different. This iron was forged outside the world system rules. The church called it cursed and sealed it. My old man stole it. Shin took the blade. A sharp rejection pulse ran through it then. Sensing Shin's empty soul, it calmed like a hound finding its master. The bag has spatial expansion magic. For the dungeon you're heading to. Shin paid with an iron fragment he'd taken from a goblin shaman. The dwarf examined it and his face darkened. Unmistakable. This is church magic, a distorted seal meant to enrage monsters and steer them towards specific locations. Why would a goblin near Gallia have this? It was a piece of the puzzle. The church's infrastructure stretched even here. Master, I'll repay you by destroying the mastermind behind these seals. Shin left the forge, the madness blade pulsing quietly at his hip. The next stage awaited, the beginner dungeon spanning 20 underground floors. The Bazal beginner dungeon's entrance was a dark chasm in a giant rocky mountain. Shin wore the item bag across his shoulder and the madness blade at his hip. Behind him, Mia and Liha followed nervously. "Follow my instructions exactly, and you won't be hurt," Shin said, stepping into the darkness. 3 needle rats burst from the shadows, giant rodents with steel-hard quills. His vision filled with light lines. Asterisk individual, needle rats. Charge speed, 4 meters per second. Trajectory predicted. Micro weakness detected in front right leg structure, asterisk. Mia, right. Liha, left. I'll take center and flank simultaneously. Shin didn't even draw the madness blade, just his iron sword. A fluid step. The rat's quills grazed his clothes by millimeters. He struck one's neck with the flat of his blade, snapping the bone. As it collapsed, Mia's short knife pierced another's throat and Liha's wind magic struck the third skull. Asterisk battle complete. Experience gained. Initiating efficient energy distribution, asterisk. Shin touched the madness blade's hilt. As the monsters dissolved into mist, the light particles meant to return to the world system were forcibly sucked into the dark red blade instead. So the old smith was right. This blade deviated from the system. It was stealing energy before it could be reported to the goddess's infrastructure. Interesting machinery, Shin said coldly. The group advanced. Floor 6. Floor 11. Floor 16. Mini-bosses fell without resistance. Shin dissected them like factory inspection. Asterisk LV 55. LV 68. LV 81 asterisk. His true level skyrocketed with every floor. But because his soul was empty, no matter how much energy flowed in, there was no backlash. At the 20th floor, a massive white door appeared bearing the same distorted holy seal as the kingdom's temple. The door at the deepest floor carried the same asymmetrical holy seal as the censer. Shin pulled out the censer he'd taken from the church and compared them. The distortion ratios matched perfectly. This dungeon isn't a training ground for beginners. It's a church experiment plant pumping magic in to manufacture artificial disasters, Shin said. He touched the door. His system analyzed the lock and casually disarmed it. Inside was a vast circular dome. Pure white pillars of light fell from the high ceiling. And at the center lay a massive shadow. A griffin eagle head and wings. Lion's body but twice normal size. Its entire body carved with the church's pure white curse marks burned deep into its flesh. Its level read 80. Unique boss, Chloe, Dimension Griffin. Level 80? That's impossible for a beginner dungeon. Mia screamed. Shin gripped the madness blade and stepped forward. Liha, Mia, wait here. This isn't a battle. It's a system reset. The enraged griffin leaped through space itself, folding dimensions to appear above Shin in an instant. Massive claws tearing down. But Shin's vision had already tracked the attack's trajectory and the space's distortion. Asterisk individual, Chloe. Dimension jump connection point has 0.03 second delay. Curse marks on the body create a mana supply bottleneck, asterisk. That's the bug in the system. Shin slipped through the gap in the claws. His madness blade flashed a dark red arc. He wasn't targeting Chloe's body, he was targeting the pure white curse marks binding her. The knots of magical energy themselves. A sharp, piercing sound. The system-deviating iron cut through the divine spellwork itself. The griffin's body released blinding white light. The curse dissolved, and intelligence returned to her eyes, along with deep pain. Asterisk condition met, dimensional authority mimicry learned. Reconstructing target data, asterisk. Shin placed his hand on Chloe's forehead. and poured his flawlessness, interference at full output, rewriting the monster's registered data from the world system into a human bug outside divine monitoring. When the light faded, a silver-haired little girl with tiny wings sat on the floor. She grabbed Shin's clothes weakly. "Thank you, big brother." "It's over," Shin said, lifting her. His gaze turned to the shadows at the dome's edge. A man in holy robes stood there, face twisted with shock and rage. High Priest All-Seen. What have you done? An unemployed piece of trash, destroying the goddess's sacred marks? All-Seen screamed, level 65. Shin handed Chloe to Liha and walked toward the priest. "You're the one managing this dungeon behind the scenes. The sensor, the iron fragment, every piece of the puzzle fits." All-Seen raised his staff, preparing to unleash the highest holy magic, judgment of sacred light. The entire dome filled with blinding white. Shin checked his status. Asterisk unemployed. LV 81 asterisk. The gap between them was now greater than adult versus infant. Too slow. Shin vanished. All-Seen felt a cold presence behind him. Before he could turn, Shin's fist drove into his abdomen, piercing through his defensive spells by targeting their flaws. All-Seen's staff clattered to the floor. Shin grabbed his collar and activated a new power, the dimensional authority he'd just copied from Chloe. Asterisk innate skill, dimensional authority activated. Rewriting target's coordinate data to permanent isolation zone asterisk. Wait. What are you doing? Killing me is useless. All-Seen's body warped as spatial distortion consumed him. In despair, he spat his final curse. As long as the system exists, everything you do is visible to heaven. The goddess will never forgive you. Then I'll destroy the system along with her. Space closed. All-Seen was permanently banished into void, severed from the world system. Silence returned. Shin looked at his hands. All-Seen had said the system made everything visible to heaven. But Shin knew better. Chloe in human form, and his own actions, none of it ever appeared on the goddess's monitor. You can't look inside an empty trash bin from outside. Chloe looked up at him nervously. He walked over and placed a hand on her silver hair. You're safe now. Come with us. I'll share the strength to fight injustice with you too. Chloe hugged his legs happily. With Mia, Liha, and now Chloe, 3 companions had gathered. Shin had reached level 81 and was one step closer to the heart of the church's conspiracy. Returning to Bazal, Shin visited Vulcan's forge. The old dwarf's eyes went wide when he heard the story. You casually say you killed a high priest? And turned a monster into a human? The world system says that's impossible. That's exactly why it's worth doing. Shin placed All-Seen's staff on the workbench. Vulcan examined it, his expression growing grim. This staff isn't just a magic amplifier. It's a key that directly interferes with the land's dragon veins and forcibly gathers energy to a single point. Where does the energy go? Can't tell exactly, but the spell's direction points west into the heart of the demon nation. That place has fertile land but always suffers famine. Seems like this divine system is the cause. The demon nation, humanity's sworn enemy. But Shin's hypothesis was solidifying. The church's pump-and-dump scheme was a global infrastructure, pitting humans and demons against each other while draining the world's energy. Old Smith, we're heading west. Vulcan tossed his best maintenance tools into Shin's bag. Fine. But if you're going to break that damned system, I'll hammer iron for you anytime. Don't die, Shin. I won't. The goddess will. Shin left with Mia, Liha, and Chloe, arranging a carriage for the western border. On his knee, Chloe murmured, "Big brother. Chloe will beat your enemies. Cut space like chicken." His level read 81. The system's supposed limit of 99 was close. But Shin already knew that limit was just a cattle fence the goddess had built for humanity. Beyond the Gallia Empire's western edge lay the wasteland of size, cracked earth and bare red rock stretching endlessly. The boundary between human and demon lands. Shin sensed the disturbance before Liha announced it, multiple people fighting ahead. A hollow in the rocks held a brutal battle. 5 human adventurers, levels 35 or so, surrounded a beautiful demon woman in dark light armor. Level 48. Name, Syria. Hand over the seed pouch and we'll let you live. Syria was covered in wounds, breathing hard, but her amber eyes held their noble light. No. These seeds are hope for my starving people. I won't give them to thieves hiding behind a god's authority. Shin stepped between them. A spinning kick caught the lead adventurer's jaw. Bone cracked. The man slammed into the rocks unconscious. What the hell? A human siding with a demon? Shin didn't answer. His system had already optimized. Asterisk individuals, adventurers. Coordination gap of 0.4 seconds. Linear weapon trajectories allow omnidirectional suppression, asterisk. Get out of my way. His form dissolved into the dust. A dark red flash, the madness blade barely drawn, its hilt striking their central nervous systems. 10 seconds. 5 adventurers lay on the ground. Shin turned to Syria. Can you move? She stared at him, shocked. You're human? Why did you save a demon? You were in my way. I removed the obstacle. Who you are doesn't matter. Syria's eyes softened slightly. She laughed bitterly. I see. But I am grateful. I am Syria, a warrior of the demon nation. I came to buy crop seeds secretly, and look at me now. She touched her head. Her 2 black horns faded like an illusion. Demon concealment skill. I can pass for human in cities. Let me travel with you. I'll repay the favor by guiding you safely to the demon nation. Shin saw the will to resist injustice in her eyes and nodded silently. Do as you like. Just don't slow me down. A 4th companion joined them. As the carriage pushed deeper into the wasteland, Syria told her story. The demon nation was once lush and beautiful. But a decade ago, the land suddenly began to dry up. Crops won't grow. My people starve. The demon king has been forced into terrible decisions, attacking humans to keep us alive. Shin processed this. Vulcan had said the church's energy pipeline pointed toward the demon nation. The timing of the famine matched exactly when the church started its monster manipulation schemes. Syria. Your nation's famine isn't a natural disaster. It's man-made. What? The church is absorbing the land's energy through the empire's underground. The pipeline points toward you. They're draining your land's life force itself. Syria's fists clenched in bitter rage. Those vile gods, they've been toying with our lives all along? Anger is pointless. Now that we know the cause, we just need to physically cut the infrastructure. The carriage crossed into the demon nation. Before them stretched a gray, withered wasteland, once fertile. But Shin's eyes were already fixed on something beyond the dead land. The deeper they went, the more horrific the scenery became. Dried lake beds. Dead trees like grave markers. Starving demon children watching the carriage with hollow eyes. The soil itself isn't bad, Shin observed. This land should be more fertile than the kingdom's capital. He could see it now, the invisible infrastructure. The dragon veins of magical energy were being forcibly twisted, sucked upward into the sky through transparent straws. Asterisk environmental log, anomalous mana recirculation rate detected. 87% of ley line energy being forcibly transported vertically to celestial coordinates, asterisk. The goddess wasn't saving the world. She was a parasite, and the demon nation was her largest feeding ground. What are you looking at, big brother? Chloe asked. The structure of the straw the goddess is using to deceive the world. She tells humans to fight the evil demons, forces demons to attack humans to survive, and in the chaos, drains the land's life force for herself. Syria trembled. So our battles, our fallen comrades, it was all a dance on her palm? Yes. A perfect pump and dump scheme. But there's one miscalculation in her perfect plan. Shin touched his chest. The empty trash bin that divine monitoring could never reach. The blind spot the goddess created for her own protection was now standing at the doorstep of her infrastructure. Where is the source of this anomaly? Syria pointed at a massive churning black vortex on the horizon. The Black Abyss Valley. Once the holiest ground in the demon nation, where the dragon veins flowed strongest. Now it's a death pit that rejects all who enter. The bottom of the Black Abyss Valley was absolute darkness. No light reached here. The air itself felt distorted by something enormous. Shin's group advanced on foot. Syria warned, the mental contamination here would break a demon warrior's mind in minutes. But Shin walked through the darkness like a sunlit street. Where others saw contamination, he saw the enormous flaws in the system. At the deepest point, they found it. A mountain-sized black turtle, the legendary divine beast Genbu. But its limbs were pierced by hundreds of pure white light chains descending from the ceiling, pinning it to the earth. Every breath it took, vast energy was sucked from its body through the chains into the sky. Asterisk captured divine beast, Shizuku. LV90 asterisk. A divine beast. Being used as a filter to drain the demon nation's magic. Syria cried in despair. Asterisk environmental log, ley line fixation infrastructure detected. Holy magical binding. Severance requires interference from outside the system, asterisk. Stay back. Shin drew the madness blade. The dark red patterns pulsed urgently. This blade was forged outside the system. The perfect weapon to cut divine chains. A holy barrier flared to repel him. Shin's flawless eyes found the atomic gaps in its structure. There. He stabbed the blade and tore downward. The barrier shattered like glass. He ran up the divine beast's body, driving the madness blade into the knots binding its limbs. Each strike severed a chain. When the last chain broke, an overwhelming surge of dragon vein energy erupted from the earth like a geyser. Asterisk infrastructure destruction confirmed. World log altered, asterisk status updated, LV81 to LV92. Killing the church's infrastructure had somehow made the system's own numbers rise. Shin noted the contradiction with cold certainty. When the light faded, the giant turtle was gone. In its place sat a young girl in a black shell-like dress, staring at her own tiny hands. She looked up at Shin, eyes shining with joy. Master. Thank you for saving Shizuku from those awful chains. The divine beast had joined them. Shizuku's release caused a miracle. Green shoots burst from the withered earth. Clear water flowed into dry riverbeds. But Shin's goal wasn't finished. At Syria's guidance, they entered the Black Royal Castle of the Demon Nation's capital. On a massive throne sat the Demon King Glen level 98. One of the world's strongest beings, closest to the system's supposed limit. Shin freed the divine beast and broke the church's infrastructure, Syria reported proudly. But Glen's face showed not joy, but despair. Meaningless. Even if the divine beast is freed. The goddess in heaven can turn this nation to ash whenever she pleases with a divine punishment. I know the absolute gap in power. I played the villain attacking humans to keep my people alive. Glenn had known the truth all along but submitted to the system out of fear. Shin stepped forward, unimpressed by the level 98 pressure. If you won't do it, I'll take the goddess's head. He pulled out the twisted censer. Glenn, when I saved the divine beast, my level jumped. Why would saving a demon guardian increase the system's numbers? Glenn was silent. The answer is simple. The level system is just the goddess distributing stolen energy back as experience to keep everyone fighting and consuming. She's not a savior. She's a parasite. Glenn stared, then bowed his head in shame. Brilliant logic. Shin, you might truly break that cage. I hereby form an absolute alliance with you. The demon nation will provide everything to complete the god-killing Fong. For days after the alliance, Shin secluded himself in the void abyss, a space beyond divine monitoring. Around him swirled two opposing energies. The residue of divine power stolen from All-Seen and the crystallization of demon king power from Glenn. Normal bodies would disintegrate under this contradiction. But Shin's soul was an empty trash bin. Asterisk emergency. Error. Shin's energy capacity has reached the world system's upper limit, LV99. Flawlessness, rewriting error code. Executing physical destruction of level cap, asterisk. The invisible ceiling shattering. For the first time in history, someone had broken LV99. Asterisk LV105. LV150. LV200. LV220, asterisk. Not only Shin but all his companions Mia, Liha, Chloe, Shizuku, Syria, even Glenn began breaking through their limits. What is this? My level is over 150. Glenn shouted. This is the power outside the cage, Shin said, emerging from the darkness. Meanwhile, in Heaven's white temple, the goddess looked at her monitor and smiled. That unemployed trash I threw away is still completely erased. Nothing's happening. Her monitor showed nothing but blank space. The hero Takashi and his 5,000 knights were marching to eradicate the demons. And she had no idea that the god-killing Fong was sharpening right beneath her nose. In the void abyss, Shin continued refining his flawless control. His companions, now all above level 110, launched a coordinated attack from every direction. Syria's massive sword. Liha's wind blades from the sky. Mia's blinding speed from his blind spot. Shin didn't even draw his blade. His eyes flashed cold blue. The world slowed to a crawl. He flicked Syria's sword away with a single finger. Dispersed Liha's wind blades by striking their weak points. Caught Mia's wrist as if he knew exactly where it would be. This is the technique outside the cage, he said coldly. The system itself was providing optimal solutions for every phenomenon in real time. Chloe and Shizuka tumbled in. Big brother. White soldiers are gathering outside. The kingdom's holy knights, marching to destroy us, Syria said with fury. Perfect timing. We need a test subject for the experiment. At that moment, in heaven, the goddess studied her monitor. Nothing but blank wasteland. She had no idea that her obliviousness was leading her army into annihilation. The wasteland of size had transformed from gray death into lush, green grassland. But trampling across it rode 5,000 holy knights in silver armor. At their head was the summoned hero Takashi, level 85, sacred sword raised high. Look, knights. The demon land is corrupting the very earth. This is the calamity the goddess warned us about. Let us reduce every demon to ash. The soldiers roared with blind faith. Before them, a single figure appeared. Shin stood alone in the center of the plain. His fake card still read unemployed, level 5. Takashi laughed. Level 5 unemployed? Some human who sold his soul to demons. Move aside, trash, or we'll trample you to paste. Shin analyzed the army. Asterisk target, 5,000 holy knights. Individual mental links synchronized with the goddess's system through the temple's great magic stone. Powerful, but one weak point will trigger a domino collapse, asterisk. Takashi. You never realized your livestock farmed by your goddess. Takashi's face twisted. Impertinent worm. All troops, charge. Shin took one step forward. Without drawing his weapon, he released the pressure of his level 220 through the system's blind spot. A silent shockwave. The air froze. Gravity seemed to multiply. Takashi's horse collapsed, its legs shattered. 5,000 knights, unable to bear the weight of Shin's existence, fell to the ground foaming at the mouth. The holy army was annihilated without a single blow exchanged. Silence covered the plain. 5,000 knights lay vomiting and convulsing. Their spirits broken by the system connection Shin had shattered. Takashi dragged himself up using his golden holy sword. I am the goddess's chosen hero. Shin walked through the fallen soldiers. Do you know what that sword was made for? To destroy evil. Takashi swung the sacred sword with all his remaining strength. Pure white light filled Shin's vision. Shin's eyes saw the atomic gaps in the blade. Asterisk target, holy sword. Structural defect detected at energy concentration point. Reverse torque application enables complete destruction, asterisk. This is your justice's true form. Empty, fragile, toys. Shin caught the descending blade between his thumb and forefinger. A sound like breaking glass. The golden, holy sword, the kingdom's symbol of absolute power, shattered into fragments and fell to the grass. Tell your goddess. The cattle's protection charm is broken. She's next. Shin kicked Takashi, sending him flying dozens of meters. Glenn and Syria approached, speechless. Shin, you destroyed 5,000 without even using a weapon. Just efficiency. Glenn, guard the nation. I'm heading to the capital. The kingdom's white porcelain capital was in chaos. News had spread, 5,000 knights annihilated by a single unemployed man, the holy sword shattered. In the central plaza, space tore open with a sound of breaking glass. Position fixed. Chloe announced, holding space open as Shin stepped through. Before them stood the Great White Temple. Intruders. Kill on sight. Royal guards charged. Shizuku stomped her small foot. Don't interfere with master. The stone pavement rose like a wave, burying the soldiers alive. One stomp from a divine beast annihilated the kingdom's elite. Shin walked through the panicking nobles and priests into the temple's inner sanctum. There stood the great magic stone altar. The distorted holy seal carved upon it, the infrastructure that collected faith energy and sent it to heaven. You, the unemployed, why are you alive? The remaining high priests trembled. I can see the structure of all your collected energy. Shin's eyes glowed blue. The energy circulation paths, the goddess's signature codes. Chloe, Shizuku. Strike the pillar's weak points. Chloe's space cutting and Shizuku's earth magic struck simultaneously. The great white temple collapsed like a sand castle. Shin reversed the altar's spellwork. The kingdoms. Accumulated national energy, centuries of stolen power was forcibly returned to the earth, vanishing into mist. As the temple fell, a massive crack of light opened in the sky. The goddess, fearing the collapse of her system, was forced to open heaven's gate. It's open. The bottom of the trash bin, Shin said coldly, staring into the false divine realm. Heaven's sanctuary was shattering. The white porcelain floor cracked as the system error from the kingdom's collapse rippled upward. What's happening? My kingdom, my temple destroyed in an instant? The goddess slammed her monitor in panic. The screen showed nothing but blank space. She received the death log of Hiro Takashi. The annihilation of 5,000 knights. But the cause, Shin's status simply didn't appear. Like an invisible ghost turning over her entire board. Impossible. Every soul in this world is registered in my system. Levels, skills, all under my control. Why can't I see anything? The white light gate, heaven's inviolable barrier, began to warp. Big brother, this place is hard. But Chloe will do her best. A child's voice echoed through the crack. Shizuku's interference added its force. Cracks spiderwebbed across the sacred gate. The goddess fell from her throne in terror. A young man stepped through the broken gate. Shin stood before her. Unarmed except for the madness blade at his hip, his fake card still reading unemployed, level 5. Long time, goddess. Just as promised, I crawled back from the bottom of your trash bin. The goddess screamed. You, the empty-souled garbage? How are you alive? How did you break through heaven's gate? She fired her highest-level execution spell, system error, forced delete. An instant death beam that should erase any registered creature from existence. Pure white light enveloped Shin. The goddess laughed madly. Die. This is the punishment for defying a god. But when the light cleared, Shin was casually brushing glowing residue off his clothes. Misfire. As expected, your programming is that defective. His cold eyes looked down at the frozen, despairing goddess. Why? Why doesn't it work? My divine punishment is absolute. The goddess crawled backward on the white floor, sobbing. Shin walked toward her slowly, speaking with the cold logic of a scientist reading his final report. Your system is perfect. Levels, skills, rules binding this world, all well made. But a program designed to delete error codes that don't exist was never written. He drew the madness blade. The dark red patterns pulsed beautifully against heaven's white light. For your own protection and data concealment, you pushed your unwanted logs into my empty soul. That log is the flawless blessing. Because it's a blank, non-existent data, your execution program can't even recognize me as a target. You made me the system's blind spot yourself. The goddess's mind flashed back to that moment in the temple when she'd cruelly smiled and cursed him as transparent garbage. Her own scheme had cultivated the god-killer who now stood before her. It's over, parasite. Shin drove the madness blade into the deepest part of the goddess's soul. I am a god. The god who rules this world. In her final desperation, she forcibly identified Shin's soul to see what power was killing her. But what appeared on her monitor wasn't the flawless blessing. It was her own signature, the authentication code she'd written when she tried to completely erase his data. She had discarded garbage that became the fong that killed her. The absolute karmic retribution. The goddess's body dissolved into white light particles. Heaven's sanctuary vanished with her. Asterisk World Management System Administrator eliminated. Initiating full system shutdown. Levels, skills, and monster registration data will be returned to nature. Well done, individual, Shin, asterisk. The fake unemployed, level 5 display above Shin's head flickered and disappeared. The madness blade in his hand became a simple, honest iron dagger. Heaven's gate closed. Shin, Chloe, and Shizuku returned to Earth. When Shin, Chloe, and Shizuku stepped onto the grass, the world's air had changed drastically. Big brother. My body feels so light, Chloe murmured, looking at her hands. The LV-135 that had floated above her head was gone, washed away like a stain in rain. Shin checked the dagger. The writhing dark red patterns had dissolved. It was now just a plain gray iron blade, forged by a stubborn dwarf's honest craftsmanship. The age of cheats is over. Now it's just our own bodies and skills. Liha ran up, her white wings soft and natural instead of painfully glowing. Mia's ears twitched happily. The numbers above everyone's heads disappeared, but nobody got sick. That's right. No more praying for levels or convenient skills. The unnatural tricks are gone. Ordinary life has returned. Shin sheathed the dagger and looked at his 5 companions. The bonds they'd forged fighting injustice remained vivid even without the system. Let's return to the demon nation. The gentle wind of a new world blew across the vast land. A quiet journey to carve a real future was beginning. At the demon nation's black castle, King Glenn released a deep, long sigh. It's gone. The cursed number 98 that bound my soul and ruled as the world's limit. His head bore no numbers. His immense, tragic pressure had dissipated. He was just a large, thoughtful demon man. Splendid work, Shin. You actually cut down the heavenly parasite and shut down the world's profit structure. I just exploited the system's defective program and hit the delete button. The trash bin the goddess made to keep her hands clean became the weapon that destroyed her. Glenn laughed heartily. A cold Galilean logic. But thanks to you, my people no longer need to throw themselves into false wars. Through the window, the land had transformed from gray death to lush, fertile plains. Syria clutched the seed pouch she'd risked her life to protect. Now we can plant these seeds in the earth. Not farming forced by a god's convenience, but honest work where sweat brings real harvest. Shin looked at the warm light streaming through the window. What will we do now? Liha asked, leaning close. First, build a quiet house. No need to hide from divine eyes anymore. The whole world is our new home. Mia's tail wagged furiously. Chloe and Shizuka jumped with joy. Big brother's new house. The unnatural tricks were gone. The unjust cage was broken. They stood on the earth as ordinary people, taking their first steps toward a truly peaceful life. The first beautiful spring since the goddess's fall. At a peaceful lakeside in the demon nation, a large wooden house stood amid rich greenery. White smoke rose from the chimney. Sunlight sparkled on the lake. Shin. Lunch is ready. Hurry or Mia will eat it all. Liha called from the terrace in her apron. I'm not that greedy. But Syria's cooking does smell amazing. Mia carried a large platter. Chloe and Shizuku ran toward Shin, competing to help. Shin sat on a wooden chair, using Vulcan's maintenance tools to polish the iron dagger. The madness blade that had once cut through the world system was now just a well-sharpened, honest piece of steel, the crystallization of a stubborn dwarf's pure skill. You're still so meticulous, Syria said, sitting beside him after farm work. Tool maintenance is the foundation of efficiency. Without divine correction, a blade's edge depends entirely on the sharpener's skill. Syria smiled. Your irrigation canal design doubled this year's harvest. The king says he can't thank you enough for your wisdom in seeing flaws. Shin had lost the flawless blessing's cheat ability. But the cold intellect he'd developed the ability to calmly analyze structure and derive optimal solutions, and the skills he'd honed fighting injustice were real, engraved into his body and soul. I just fixed the inefficient flaws in front of me. Now, let's eat. He sheathed the dagger and joined the circle of his 5 beloved companions. Liha, Mia, Syria, Chloe, Shizuku. No fake blessings from a god. Just honest life. Cultivating the earth with their own hands, building the future with their own strength. I love you, Shin. Master, stay with us forever. The girls' laughter echoed across the green lakeside. The young man, discarded as transparent garbage from the temple, had found the warmest home in all the world. The end.